So this training is part of HBAA's 2021 vision and benefits to members in terms of how we can support getting back to live. It's also aligned to resilience, ethics and qualities, which is 3 of the 4 of HBAA pillars for 2021. So we are delighted, and it's been a couple of months now since we first launched the partnership of training with Sarah. And the whole purpose of this session was really just to walk you all through any questions that you have with regards to the training, why it was set up, and really give you that real insight into why it's necessary. We've had quite a few of HBA members now go through the training, and other non-members as well, which Sarah will touch on. And we've had the most amazing feedback from people that have attended in terms of things that they thought they knew and actually they don't, but actually how this can be applied into working practices of the future. So we're delighted to be working with Sarah on this. And this, as I say, this session, we won't keep you long. It was just a very quick fire round of why, who, how, and how you can get involved as well from yourself. So welcome to you, Sarah.
Thank you.
We will also send over a document after this which has the presumed asked questions, so anything you kind of missed, or if you want to forward on, we feel that we've covered all of that as well. So Sarah, in terms of you yourself, and hopefully everybody will know of you or know you on this call, and I know you've set up some really informative social media groups as well to keep people a depth and breadth of such subject, but can you just share with us kind of your experience and your background in terms of what you bring to this training as well? I think it's really good for people to get that connection.
Yeah, of course. So thank you very much for having me and inviting me to do this session. So historically, I'm an event director. So I started with the big agencies and moved up to a head of events level there. And then I set up Bright Space Events as a consultancy company about 6 years ago, working with smaller agencies, bigger agencies, production agencies, a whole different range of clients and industries. So sort of over that 20 plus years, I've had a huge variety of different clients and different events and different venues, different locations. And for all of those, I was responsible for the risk assessment process and for all of the supplier liaison in their health and safety as well. So I had a huge amount of practical experience of doing that for some, fairly large and complicated corporate events. What I've done in the sort of lockdown, shutdown time is used the time to study and turn that practical experience into formal knowledge and formal qualifications. So I've got a couple of certifications now with IOSH, and I'm just waiting for the final bit of the puzzle for my NEBOSH National General Certificate, which is what will then qualify me to be a health and safety professional, outside of events. But I've just got 9 more days before I get the final results for that one. So that's kind of my journey up until summerish last year. And then when things started to open up again, I was lucky enough to be able to consult with my clients on going back to, in most instances, COVID secure filming locations. So people who were doing virtual events, but the events were getting quite big. They had, upwards of 50 crew members sometimes, which obviously needed that's an event. That's a full kind of COVID secure event. So I've been doing that as well throughout. So I've been able to kind of take this stuff into the real world. I've massively focused on COVID, as you can imagine, and I've applied all the principles of my background as an event director, my new knowledge and study of health and safety, the formal academic side, and also my experience of getting out on site with my clients in a consulting fashion. So hopefully that's covers all angles that you need for this training.
Yeah, brilliant. And also, I'm sure all of us have struggled on here in terms of trying to understand government guidance, and that's something that the HBAA have really tried to support members on. And you get dumped with a load of information, and then you've got to sift through, actually, what does that mean to me? What does that mean to my business? What does that mean to events in the industry? that changes, and you know, we're all working to the 17th of May, 21st of June, and you know, fingers crossed those dates change. But how do you ensure that the people that have been on the courses have up-to-date information with regards to guidance as and when it changes?
So part of my day-to-day life is checking all that stuff. You know, I hang around on those websites very regularly, and I've got you know, networks of other people who we're also always sharing any updates that we find. So you know, that's a big part of my day-to-day life, is making sure that I'm up to date with what's going on. But the other thing that we do is, whenever there's a significant change or a real big material change in legislation, guidance, or just sort of best practice, once things kind of evolve and change, I issue updates to the training that you can access via your online portal. So once you're enrolled, then you get access to your individual learning account, which has all of the content on there, all of the slides, notes, useful links, you know, tons of extra videos and things to watch. But the important thing is, no matter whether you finish the course or whether you're still going through the course, there's video updates that would be released. And also the slides that are on there are the slides as they stand now. And the update will point you to the bits that have changed since you did your training. So that way, you know, if you've got, you might do the training and then it's a few weeks before you actually need to do your assessment, or it's a few weeks before you've got a client meeting, you know, your first meeting about a live event, you can jump back into your portal, have a quick look, see if anything's changed, and then just review the key slides to, you know, to refresh what you need to be thinking about, basically. So it's a live resource. It's valid for a year from when you've purchased the training, basically.
Okay, and obviously massive fingers crossed, and the industry's waiting with bated breath for us to actually return to live. And I think we all know now that, you know, what we're doing at the moment in terms of face-to-face over a platform is not going to go away, but it also isn't going to replace live meetings and events. When we do return to live, and not if, but when we do return to live, can the learners and experiences be transferred for agencies or venues, and to apply them to live events and meetings? Because what we don't obviously want to do is to take people through training and then it kind of stops because we're back to live. So can this be transferred into a more practical, from a live perspective?
Yes, definitely. So I think because of my background, coming at it from the event director angle, everything about the content and the course, it has got that practical spin. You know, how do we actually make this happen? It's not just a big old list of here's the legislation, here's the guidance, you know, good luck. The whole focus of the course is a real practical implementation. We do cover the science and we do look at the guidance and the legislation, of course we do, but we do there's lots of case studies in there, so you can kind of actually see it happen. You know, I'm one of these people, I need to see it in process to really get it to stick. So we do case studies, and then there's a whole session where it's a group exercise. The full course has a whole session of a practical activity. I give you a scenario and we work through an actual risk assessment, so you can see how the theory all actually then translates. But beyond that as well, when you finished your workshop, you go back to your online and there's an assignment. So then you get chance to do your own risk assessment, either based on, you know, a fantasy event or something you might actually have coming up. And you can actually, you know, use what you've learned to do a risk assessment, and then that is what forms your final assignment mark. So if there was anything that you didn't quite get, or that you weren't sure of, or that you've, you know, approached a bit differently to how we'd suggest, then I will give you a call. We'll work through any changes that you need to make, and then, you know, you get your pass. So, and to be fair, I do that pretty much even if you've got a pass. I still kind of give quite detailed feedback about things that you can do to improve when you actually go and do your risk assessments. So there's a huge focus in the full course on being the detail you need to physically carry out those risk assessment. And we also look at other implementation things like testing. So I've added a module on that recently because it's just become such a bigger question than it was when we first launched. So we've got that, some ideas about technology. We talk a lot about communication and your comms plan and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, the practical how do we make this happen goes all the way through the course. It's definitely not just theory.
Okay. And when we had the initial conversation and approached you in terms of supporting, one of the things that we wanted to do was to look at how we actually could target the end corporate customer. So obviously we've got members as in venues and agencies, but what we wanted to do is to really showcase this training for the end customer and what they would need or want to recognize. So I know you adapted the training slightly and actually added in a different angle. Can you just talk us through that, if that's okay?
Yeah, of course. So it's really important in this that it's collaborative. It's not going to work very effectively if it's event planners shut in a room doing their risk assessment and not not engaging with the rest of the stakeholders. So it was really important to get something out there which we can use to kind of educate and inform the people that are around the planners. So it's targeted, like Lee said, initially at the corporate planner who might be using an agency, but it's also very relevant for your supplier network if you're an agency, and it's very valuable for your sales teams if you're an agency or a venue. So the sales guys, they don't need to be able to do a risk assessment, but they 100% need to understand the basic principles and also be able to talk very confidently about what's happening behind the scenes and, you know, the kind of things that are in place to keep everybody safe, because that confidence is going to be such a massive part of whether we, you know, reopen successfully or not. And I see it's twofold. There's confidence in corporates to actually get out there and book and start, you know, advertising these events and going with live over virtual, but also with the delegates to make sure that they're confident to come along. So the more kind of awareness we can get out there with sales teams, with venues, with corporates. So this is basically a shorter it's only 2 hours and it's all online. That's the main difference. So there's no workshop. And there is less of that practical, how do you do a risk assessment? It really mostly gives you just a top level summary of all of it does do the bit of the science and the guidance and the legislation. So it still does all the background, but the actual risk assessment and control measures, which we spend quite a lot of time on the full course, that's not as detailed. So it's more focused on general planning principles, really. So that's that one, and like I said, that's online only.
And when you talked about earlier just about the grouping with regards to the course and the full course, you try and kind of put together agencies and then venues, don't you, just so you're making sure that the topics are absolutely relevant for the end user, really? Yeah,
it's funny that you brought that up, and I'm sorry, Lee, I should have mentioned this before, but actually what we've found is that it works better if we've got a mix. Because of the Q&A sessions, because there's lots of chances throughout the content where we say, you know, we stop and we talk about what we've just covered and how it's relevant to you and that sort of thing. And actually that is really beneficial if you've got a good mix in the group. I think what I have found though is that because I've now delivered quite a lot of these live workshops and I've had a really good mix of people, I'm able to anticipate questions and tailor my content very nicely to who's in the room. So yeah, we're actually working on that kind of cross idea. And the other thing again is because as I've gone further into this, that the absolute prerequisite of venues and planners working together, it's going to be so important that, you know, the idea is then if you train together, then you appreciate it, you know, coming from each other's point of view. So that's how we're doing it now.
Okay. Talk to us about the modules. I know we've talked before, and you know, mental health, which is something that's really dear to my heart, and also, you know, none of us have probably become unscathed from what we've been through and going through right now. But apart from mental health, and if you can bring that to life a little bit more, but what other modules do you have as part of the training?
So for the full course, you actually start with 2 online modules just to give a fundamental background in health and safety and risk assessment for events. So that means that everybody who comes into the workshop has either a refresher or an intro to the basic sort of principles, because some people will never have done risk assessments before. You know, this is a new requirement that everybody has to do one for every single event. So and then when you come into the live session, we cover some of the science, and we look at the transmission to make sure that everybody fully understands the risk. Because once you know that, then what happens with the guidance and everything is an extra detail. But as long as you really understand the hazard and the risk that we're trying to reduce, we do look at the principles of planning. So we just kind of look at a quick system and how to approach it. The idea there is that we want to make this holistic approach. We don't just want people to 2 weeks before the event pick up a risk assessment template and start filling it in, because that's not going to serve your guests. It's not going to serve your client. So we talk through how to approach the event, the kind of documentation you might need or see, as well as your risk assessment. And then we look at the legislation and regulations as they are now, and we look at the guidance from the government, but also from relevant industry bodies. So event industry, we do film and TV because that's very current, and in hospitality and hotels as well. So we cover those guidance documents. And then, as I said, we do this practical session that focuses on a risk assessment. We look at a template, and then how to actually carry out your assessment. At the moment, we're working on a worst case scenario. I think it's easier to scale it back than scale it up. So we're teaching everybody, you know, to do it as if we're in a full social distancing, and we just don't know what's out there. But so we're going with a full risk assessment. And then, as you mentioned, Lee, we also consider mental safety. So I've got Helen from Eventwell, who knows far more about it than I do. And we have a Q&A all about what we need to consider and how we can help people in our assessment and our safety measures. And then a final bit about implementation, like I said, testing, technology, comms, you know, just a final kind of wrap of how to bring it all on site, basically.
And timings wise, how long do each of the courses take?
The online only one is a maximum of 2 hours, and you can break that down into 10 minutes if you want, because the videos are around 10 to 15 minutes each, or you can kind of do the whole thing. We'd advise maybe not doing the whole thing in one go, because it's a lot to take in, but you could do if you wanted to. The workshop-based course has 3 parts, really. You've got an hour or so of online learning the health and safety stuff. The workshop itself is 4 hours, and then your assignment can take probably minimum 2 hours, really, to properly kind of have a go. But some people actually use it as an opportunity to do a whole risk assessment for an actual event, and at which point that would have taken them a lot longer than that. But, you know, just to demonstrate your knowledge, you could probably do the assignment in a couple of hours. So what's that, 4, 5, 6, 7 hours for the full course.
Okay, and what about costs as well, please, and discounts and timelines on that?
Yeah, so we've negotiated with HBAA, or rather they've kind of approached us, and we were able to offer a discount on the courses. So that's a 30% discount off the prices for both the full course and also the online only course. The full one is normally 135. And the online introduction is 65. And those discounts, ideally we wanted people to complete by the end of April, but we've agreed that we're going to extend so that you just need to book by the end of April. And because of the way the platform is structured, and we've done this very deliberately, when you sign up, all you kind of sign up for is the content of the course. You don't have to commit to a date to do the actual training. So you can kind of buy now, train later. That's the sort of thing. So you could lock in your discount for you, for your team, for your clients, for however you want to do it. get that sort of sussed now, but then come to it when it's appropriate for your business, you know, depending on when those discussions really start to ramp up. Everything is through our platform, so it's all held on our dedicated training portal, and that's actually a really good resource for you to share with your clients and say, this is what our team are doing, you know, this is how seriously we're taking it, because there's a load of information in there about what's covered in the syllabus and you know, all that good stuff, and that's where you purchase your courses, and you use a code which will be on the stuff that Lee sends you, but it's FutureFit21, and that will unlock your discount. But like I said, only till the end of April that actually expires then, because we are getting really busy as well. So it's if you did want to do it soon, we'd advise you to kind of crack on with that online module, because it's after you've done that you can book for your live workshop.
Right. So what we will do post this is we will send out the presumed asked questions, which will be updated, and we'll also include the recording from this today and the new dates that we're talking about. But as Sarah said, if you're wanting to take advantage of the discount, it's about the future intent, isn't it, Sarah, that you're locking in?
Yeah, commit to doing it, but do it when it's convenient.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Does anybody have any questions at all for Sarah at this stage? Anything else that you want us to cover, just about the modules or about the timings, or anything else that you feel that we've missed, what Sarah's missed? Because I think this is about the opportunity of you understanding, you know, the importance of it. And, you know, as we all know, customers are very apprehensive about committing to spending. They're very apprehensive about being a delegate, and this will really help to give them that confidence and to take the next steps. And I think to have that assurance is that you've done the training would be really, really great to build that confidence. Any questions?
I suppose if I'm just thinking, you wouldn't have to necessarily have everybody in the company. You could sort of have a dedicated person, couldn't you? That actually,
yeah,
you know.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that would work quite well for a lot of companies. Is that you could actually, because this is so big, it is quite a lot to just load on top of event managers who are also maybe trying to do virtual and live. So having a COVID lead is potentially quite a good way to do it. So they do the full course, the others can do the intro course, you know, so at least everybody's aware of what's going on. But and then your COVID lead can kind of roll out training as and when appropriate for the rest of them if you do need more people. But yeah, I think quite a few people are doing it that way.
Okay, and just to clarify, the pricing of £135, did that include the discount?
No, that's before the discount. And
okay,
yeah, so it's
right.
£94.50, I think it works out.
Right, great, thank you.
And Tracy, if you felt you wanted to reach out to somebody that's completed it, Becky Tower from Events Raccoon, she's completed it, and she was on here last time just saying, you know, how much she thought she knew a lot in terms of risk assessments, but this has taken it to another level. So I'm sure if you wanted to reach out for somebody that has already been on it and the benefits they've seen, I'm sure she would be delighted to share that with you.
Okay, I mean,
sorry.
So I'm just, you know, this isn't going to go away, is it, anytime soon? So it's not a case of, you know, come the end of June, end of the year even. This is something that's going to be going on now for quite.
I think so. And we're, as event planners, you know, and venues, we're all very used to the concept of the swan, you know, where everything on the surface is very calm and very normal, but underneath the amount of work that's going to have to go into keeping an event safe whilst it can still look relatively normal is going to be vast, and it's all going to come from your risk assessment. So that's why this is so important.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions at all? Okay, so as I said, as a follow-up, Sarah, if you can send me the recording from today's session, I will build it and put it back into the document. I'll update the document and I'll send it out, and that in there has the pricing, it will have the dates, and it also will have how to book as well, and the questions that we've asked today are in there with answers against it, but it also obviously takes you to the platform. Anybody has any further questions, please do either get in touch with us or directly to Sarah, who would be delighted to help and assist.
Brilliant. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for joining.